பல்லாவரம் ஃபோக்கஸ் மென்ஸ்வேர் இப்போது மேடவாக்கத்திலும் ஓப்பனிங் ஆஃபர் டி-ஷர்ட் வெறும் 19, ஷர்ட்ஸ் 79 மற்றும் அனைத்து ஆடைகளும் 799க்குள் கிடைக்கும்.
This is based on a true life murder case.
Yeah, it happened in the US in 1923. It's actually a very famous case.
Hello, do I call you Balaji Kumar?
Yes.
Yes.
However.
Welcome to Galatta Plus, and I want to tell you that I really enjoyed your first film, Video Moon.
Thank you very much.
It just came out of the blue and I was like, who's this director? Never heard of him. He's made such a technically accomplished debut, and this was in 2013 when we weren't seeing too many, of these kind of films. But the thing is, now it's 2023. It's been 10 years. What were you doing in these 10 years?
I have been writing a lot of, I also worked on a few commercials, and after that I started writing scripts that I would like to do. So I'm kind of like prepped for the next 10 years. Let's put it that way.
So you're good till 2033?
At least.
Okay.
Yeah, I have like a good amount of ideas that are well drawn out. Some of them are quite unique. Some of them I'm very afraid to also do, because the next film that I'm planning to pitch is half happens in Japan, half happens in India. So my thing is, how do I actually bring the Japanese language here? Because I can't make them speak Tamil, right? So these are the things that are like happening in my head. I'm trying to figure out a way to actually bring that into the mix.
Do you think that, when I saw Video Moon, I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but I think I have to say it. I kind of knew it wouldn't do well in the theaters, because you know the audience, right? And you know that this is going to be a little, it's not spoon feeding them. There's a certain rhythm to it that's different from your usual mass audience or whatever it is. What made you say, I'm going to do this in Tamil?
See, the idea was, I didn't know, at that time I was in the US, so I had no idea. I wanted to like sort of do a litmus test to see how this would pan out. But at that time, believe it or not, that particular period I consider is the golden era of Tamil cinema. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Pretty much like the Polanski era in the 60s, that was the golden era of Hollywood. After that, Hollywood is gone. Right. So you just see like
late 60s, 70s. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for the final film, if I remember right, was Chinatown. Chinatown is considered as the last film made in the golden era.
Okay. I might differ with you on that, but anyway, let's go with it.
But that is what, I mean, majority of the people say, right after that, because they had like the director had this certain authorship, he had like his own ideas of like bringing things out and all that.
Right.
So that turned out to be, according to the Hollywood critics consensus, we are talking about right from Paul and Cale to like Roger Ebert, and everybody considered that movie as the final film of the golden era period. Okay. Maybe there could be another trickle of one or two coming out that had come out after that. I don't know, but I don't even know what those are. But Chinatown by Robert Town is one of the finest films, extraordinarily well written. So I thought, okay, chasing golden era, because when I was in Hollywood, after I finished my picture there, and I was offered a lot of horror films. So that, they just kind of boxed me and said, like, let him do some horror films. Because my first film, 9 Lives of Mara, that is a psychological horror fairy tale. Mm-hmm. It's more of a fairy tale. And it was not a 3-structure film. It's a 2-act structure. Ascension, descension. It's a very different type of a structure. So I used excerpts from Malleus Maleficarum. If you are familiar with that book, it's called The Witch's Hammer. That particular book has got more blood than anything else in the world. The second most popular book in the world, the first being the Bible. So it has the Latin thing in it. So we had a documentary. So it was interspersed. The movie was interspersed with documentary, real life. It was pretty much like, if you're familiar with the second wave that hit Hong Kong, right? There was this movie called, I don't remember the movie, it's actually based on the Citroen car, if you're familiar with that. So that's a beautiful film done by a female director. Mm-hmm. And pretty much like Wong Kar Wai. And those guys, they started doing something which was like, the new wave like the French New Wave, the Truffaut, the so-called, from that point on, when it moved to the Hong Kong, it was called the second wave. I thought, okay, maybe India, if there are like people like, like Nalan Kumaraswamy, all those people, they stemmed out of that time only during Video Moon.
Right.
Sudhakavum and all that. So I thought, okay, this is cool, man, because, Nalan is a good buddy of mine. So I said, like, because it's a phenomenal writer, such a good writer. So we both respect each other for what we are good at. So then I was thinking, okay, if we had a pact like that with the so-called directors, what if we actually charged and made a third wave, which could be like, something very different, slightly an offset of what these two have done. So that was the idea. I said, okay, Video Moon could actually qualify for that. But the idea is you have to tread on a very familiar path in a much unknown way.
Right.
And the fun part is, in 2020, Video Moon has got more than 15, 20 million hits. Only now people are ready to see that film. At that time, yes, you're right.
You mean on YouTube?
On YouTube, it's in Lionsgate Play, and at some point it was in Prime. Then they actually took that and put it in Lionsgate Play for extra money. And then I think at some point Einthusen had it, which is a paid thing. And then there are some paid channels in the US too, where they have this film. And it did quite well in France, I should say that, because I have, and their Video One was actually one of the films that was shortlisted for a Visual Film Festival. I mean, we didn't apply for it. They requested if they could play. And it kind of like, they had that was the first time they were actually choosing a film to be played there. One was Gangs of Wasseypur. The other was Video Moon. So we both were like, neck to neck. And finally, for some reason, they chose Video Moon. And they played that apparently a morning show. I was not there in Rasool. At that time, I was in the US. So they played a morning show probably around 9:30 or 8:30 or 9:30 in a small theater, 200-seat theater. That was full. And then there were people waiting outside. And due to popular demand, they actually moved that to the next day evening show, like the prime show at 500-seat theater. Apparently, even that got full. Then they said they demanded one more show. They said, no, this itself was out of the thing, because they didn't know how an Indian film will do, and they played it under a category called Breathless.
Okay.
Along with Akira Kurosawa, and and also along with what's that movie? The Hong Kong version of The Departed.
Right, Internal Affairs.
Yeah, Internal Affairs.
Yeah.
They played along with that. I said, like, wow, it's like, that's pretty cool. At least they're playing this.
Is it Internal or Infernal?
Infernal Affairs.
Infernal Affairs.
Infernal Affairs.
Yeah.
Eternal Affairs, this Richard Gere movie. It's like one of those B movies.
Yeah. So you're saying it's taken 7 years for Video Moon. It took 7 years for Video Moon to kind of gain the traction that you wanted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. When you approached Vijay Antony with the script of Kolai, was he the first person that you approached?
Actually, he was the first person I met with and I spoke to. I did casually send a pitch deck with a very opened out synopsis and why this is a film that I want to do, etc. And an interesting visual to do with that. I did send it to like a couple of recognizable actors. Didn't get it, I guess. I don't know. They didn't want to do it. I don't know, whatever the reason. I said, fine, that's cool. And then when Vijay Antony wanted me to pitch the idea, I said, like, sure, but I pretty much thought that he was not going to like it, So I said, in fact, I also called my buddies that day. I said, like, dude, I am coming this evening, so don't worry. I'm just going to go pitch it to him. Most likely, the first 15 minutes, he's not going to like it. So I'm going to say bye, and I'm just going to walk out. That's the respect I want to show him. So that's all it is. But then he turned to like it very much. So we wound up sitting there. I had to call my buddies and I had to cancel. I said, dude, I can't come. So that was how it turned out.
But that's huge because, see, Vijay Antony is supposed to have one of the best radars for what the audience wants.
Correct.
So that means that somewhere, at least at this stage, it looks like you're going somewhere right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I asked him, I told him, Sir Ogalke, do you think all the rest of the audience, or C audience, whatever they call it, அவங்களுக்கு பிடிக்குமா அப்படி கேட்டேன். Then he said, sir, நானே ஒரு C audience தான் சார். சூப்பராக பிடிக்கும், சூப்பராக புரியும். There's no doubt at all. ரொம்ப clear-ஆ இருக்கு படம். So what's wrong with that? It's so good.
Right.
I said, okay, good. He gave me that kind of confidence because I didn't know,
Right. So this is hopefully not one of those things that will take a long time to kind of meet the audience that it deserves.
Actually, I don't think it is because it's a very normal, ordinary, simple film.
It's a
but
murder mystery.
Murder mystery. But the interesting thing is, if you ask me why did I choose this, there are thousands of murder mysteries. And a murder mystery itself is a very contrived genre. You have to have some kind of a contrivance and to actually bring forth the resolution. So I knew that there is contrivance that needs to be had. So the difference that I had to do was I said, like, how am I going to approach this that's different from anything that I've ever seen or ever read? What is it that I can do? So it's almost like this, I tell the audience that it's a vanishing trick. I show a coin and you look at this coin and say, this is a vanishing trick I'm going to perform. And I'm going to show the other hand and I'm going to close my hand and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. Before I open the hand, I vanish and the coin fall down. That is the kind of trick I did in this. It is a vanishing trick, but the vanishing trick itself is like I don't want to give away too much, but it's a bit of a, there is a red herring within the red herring itself.
Right. You are based out of Hollywood?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you come down whenever you want to make a movie?
Yes, this particular trip, I have been here for more than 4 years now.
Okay.
So
you've been going back and forth, or you've been here?
Here for 4 years now.
Okay.
I was planning to go December, but then we didn't. We had this, the deliverables, so I had to like push it. I thought, okay, let me go Jan or Feb right after the release, and that's when the hero met with an accident. Then I thought, okay, let's just push it to like March or April. Then everything got slowly pushed.
But home is LA.
LA, yeah, that's where I live.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm really interested, why I'm interested in this movie, is the technique, right? I really, because I feel that you can tell a lot about the movie. This may sound very superficial to you, but by the poster or by the first look or something like that, it's even the font you choose, the way you put the various elements, the way the graphic designer presents it. I think right from there you can tell what the aesthetic of a movie is going to be. There's a certain formal quality to this, right? It's not just some, for example, kolai can be a very dramatic word.
Yeah.
But here it's almost artistically
elegant.
It's elegant.
Yeah.
It's like you're not saying it like in Pulp Fiction neon words or something like that. So that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to this. So where did you pick up this way of this eye for visuals, this technique?
See, first of all, I have to thank my producers because they allowed me to do it. If not, it would not have happened. Especially Kamal Bora, who's also like aesthetically an inclined producer. He was like a hands-on producer at this. Even though we had 7 producers, he was like one of the main ones from Infinity. He represented Infinity. And then Siddhartha Shankar, he represented Lotus. Both of them have very interesting aesthetic. They like good quality stuff. So because they like that, I was able to easily convince them. So if not, I have to take a huge course to a producer to say why Helvetica is the most famous font, why the paid Helvetica is the best instead of 100,000 Helveticas, and Arial is also very close to Helvetica, but still why? Why is sans serif more important than serifs? All that requires a humongous amount of, knowledge transfer.
Right.
And half the time they'll think that they'll say like, oh God, you're talking like a professor. But it's not like I'm talking like a professor because everything has a certain, there is a unity in diversity. Everything has a certain method to the madness. And you have to understand what it is. And see, now that you observed, what's the most interesting thing is, the minute we actually had the first picture with the producers, because usually producers are wearing a garland and they stand like, like they're ready to get slaughtered or something, sorry to tell you that that's exactly how they stand most of the times. And I wanted the producers to have that dignified, elegant look. So I said, okay, let's do a photo shoot a la Vanity Fair of the 60s. So because Vanity Fair had that pat, I said, okay, let's just emulate that. That's okay. That's enough because there's nothing wrong in emulating because I cannot reinvent the wheel. I said, let's do that, but let's just do it our style with our color palette. So then our designer, he came. At that time, Shiva was the one who actually came up with this idea. So we designed and we positioned the people. We said, this is where he's going to sit. This is where he's going to stand. This is where it is. We literally put characters and we made them like, get that group photo correctly done. And then Narasamy, he came and he did the photo shoot, the so-called stage. And then we had Movin Kurian, who was a wonderful photographer. And I believe we shot this in March. January was when that, I think it was more like a 100 megapixel camera or something that was just released at that time. So he flew that out of Bangalore and he came and he shot it. So we had the best of the best. The minute we released that picture, everybody said knives out, knives out, knives out, knives out, knives out. And I said, good, because we are going the right track. See, the idea is like a picture has to speak 1,000 words. And it did. Even though this has got nothing to do with knives out, but both are exactly the same genre. At least the people are able to understand that this is the genre that we are working on. So I said, fine. That's a great indication for us. And it's a good thing to have Knives Out as a company because that's a great film anyway. So I said, okay. Secondly, when it came to font, I discussed with the producer. I said, I discovered this font in 20s during the lockdown. So as I was studying the font, and because I like to study the foundries, I myself, I'm an artist. So I like to I like designs of any form. Let it be anything. A bottle, or let's say a pen or anything. And I like minimalism. So because to do minimalism, you have to understand everything. You have to go through all the steps and then start cutting out what is not required. And finally, you arrive at minimalism. You don't design minimalism. It's almost like you arrive at minimalism. I wanted Art Deco style because Art Deco, very New York, very LA, and very much in the vein of a film noir, and very much I love film noirs.
Very jazz age.
Very jazz age,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So I said, okay, let's do Art Deco and Dadaism. So there is like this combo of Dadaism but I also wanted a modern feel to it. So basically, I wanted to get a retro modernistic approach. So I wanted all the retro elements, a good part of the yesteryear and the good part of now, coalesce, come together and work together. So I figured, I said like, okay, I found this amazing font and we had to pay for it. I told my producer, thank you, pay for it. Because pay for a font. Let's not use free fonts. Free fonts are available. My producer said, absolutely. And we paid. And we got the font. And that was the only font we decided. But to get to that font, I had to go through thousands of them. It's like sometimes you just skim through them and certain things catch your eyes, and you should know how will the word Vijay Antony would look in this. How will the word kolai will look in this? How will this be able to, let's say if I have to translate this into Tamil, who's going to do that? Because obviously they are not going to do a foundry. They are not going to do all the alphabets. Technically, that's how you're supposed to do. Because if you ask my next picture, when I have a bigger budget, I'll tell them, please don't design the words that I want. Design the entire alphabets, all of it in Tamil. And from there, we'll design it. We'll get the foundry right. And then from there, let's get in. So that's exactly how I would like to start. Because everything is part of the design.
And that eye is an extension of this is what your technique is.
Yeah, probably because I started drawing, and I from a very young age, I was totally a sucker to compositions. I used to love art, so I used to go to in any form. Let's say even if if it's in a book or even if it's a duplicate version of something or a photograph of something, I would always like to gawk at it. So the masters like Caravaggio, for instance, who's also like the chiaroscuro, the founder of film noir,
right,
or Baroque, that style, or Rembrandt. So I am a big fan of these people's work, and I would sometimes just look at them and just gawk at the kind of work that they did, like Daumier, or or you can talk about anyone. You know, there are too many people to talk about.
So basically, painting is what gave you your
Absolutely, absolutely, painting.
right.
Yeah, it's all about painting.
Right. What is the first film that you saw?
What is the first film?
That you saw
Oh wow,
ever?
just like to recollect. What was the first image I saw?
Let me make it easier. Is there a movie that made you say, "Oh my God, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life"?
Yes, I could say that. See, the thing is, when I watched The Great Escape,
The Steve McQueen one.
Steve McQueen.
Okay.
I was a kid then. My father used to always take me and my sister to the Rex Theatre in Bangalore. The two
You
theatres.
grew up in Bangalore?
I grew up a little bit in Bangalore before I moved to the US. And then I moved, then I also came to Chennai. I lived in Chennai and then I moved to the US. So my father would always like to take me to Rex Theatre. Rex was the only theatre in Bangalore that always played English films.
Right. I think there was also one called Strand, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know at that time, I don't know, but
Yeah.
Rex was a theatre. So invariably me and my sister will run and we'll talk to the manager and we'll always say, can you give us 4 tickets? Me, my father, my mother and my sister. We'd always go do that. And the manager kind of knew that we were very regulars in watching English films, right? So he would always give us tickets. And me and my sister would sit in the middle and we'll watch. And when I watched Great Escape, which my father wanted to watch, I said like, wow. Not a single girl in the film. And that one word, good luck.
Yeah.
That's one word. And I said like, my God, can something be this powerful? That one word can actually toss the whole film.
Yeah.
I said like, wow. Then I started to subconsciously love film. I can't even say that I made that decision that night.
Yeah.
No, it's
But
like
it was a powerful
subconsciously.
thing, yeah.
Very powerful thing. These are the things that made me.
Yeah. Strangely speaking, today, I'm just thinking Great Escape may be seen as, I think it's one of the great films. But today, people might actually say it's a little slow. Because the pacing of films has
Pace has completely changed. Yes,
right?
yes,
So if you tell them it's a great action film, but then why is everybody talking so much? Why is it that's kind
The
of like
beauty is in the talk.
Yeah.
That because there is action in the talk.
Right. I think somebody said, I forget what, Hitchcock or somebody said that the beauty of action is in the anticipation of the action
Exactly.
rather than
Rather
the
than the action
action
itself.
itself.
Exactly.
So the more you make them wait,
Exactly.
the more the audience is like, when is it going to come? When is it going to come? And
Exactly.
then I forget who exactly said this, but yeah,
Probably Hitchcock.
Yeah, probably
He's
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately, what does cinema mean to you? Because you're clearly not a very prolific filmmaker.
Yeah.
Does it mean like you're going to come down only when you feel that, okay, I need to make this film, otherwise I can wait it out till I...
Yeah, because I don't see film as a means to an end. Because if that is the case,
You don't see it as a livelihood.
as a livelihood, no. Fortunately, God has been kind to me, and I'm a single guy, so it's much easier for me. So I can afford to take those chances.
Right, and like if I may ask, what is your source of income? As in like do you do advertising? Do you do...
I do a lot of ad films, and I have investments here
Okay,
and
cool.
there.
Right.
In
Just
the
to get a
US
picture of
mostly.
what, yeah.
And my needs are very small.
Right.
So therefore, for me, I don't want a lot of money to have a great life. I always have a great life with small money also. So
Right.
it's all in your mind.
Right. So we are going to see Balaji Kumar movies when Balaji Kumar is ready to make movies.
Now I've planned to do. I want to do another film. I want to start another film this year itself.
Right. You did mention that you have scripts for the next 10 years.
Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah. How long does it take for you to write a script?
Depends, Kolai is probably the most difficult script I will ever write. Because after writing it, I said like, my God, I threw that script away too many times. I said like, oh boy, I think this is not what I want to do, because it started, because I had to like take it from one zone, a zone of contrivance, to somewhere else. And it makes it so difficult because it has to be done effortlessly.
Right.
So even after you're done with it, you cannot like show any indication that where it stemmed out of. So that's the tricky part. The tricky part is the devil is in the details. The last one, like what Michelangelo said. Trifles make perfection, but perfection is not trifle. So the little small things, that are the ones. So what I thought was, I said, okay, you might recognize it here and there. There is a flashback and a flashback within a flashback and a flashback within a flashback and a flashback within a flashback here. But it's very short. I don't hold the audience for a long time because I don't want to get confuse them. So it's like a quick pass to pass to pass to pass. It goes like that.
And that took a long time to write?
Yeah, it is, because what happens is my dialogues eventually has to parse as narration, and the narration eventually will again pass as a narration in another sequence, will again segue into a dialogue in that sequence if that character happens to be there. Things like that, it's a little jumpy stuff. You'll
Right.
actually like it when you see it.
So again, coming back to the question, how long did it take for you to
It
write?
took me almost 2.5 years to write.
To write this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
And Video Moon?
Video one was actually me and Abe. We spent about 8 months, 9 months, right?
8, 9 months.
That's
yeah.
all.
Yeah, that's pretty average for
That's
a
a
script.
pretty average
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think about a year for a script is
Yes.
par for the course, right? It's
Yes.
like getting a little more into this. How many drafts did you do for kolai?
Kolai, actually, I did more than 40 to 45 drafts approximately.
Okay.
These are full-blown drafts, and sometimes a draft I would only make some strategical changes. If I shift scenes, I don't call them drafts. I do like AB. But if I physically change something that actually affects the cause and effect, if it actually affects the arc
Right.
at some point, I call that as a draft.
Right. Now, there is one question that I have. I believe that this thing that has been drilled into us, which is this 3-act structure, I don't think it's the be all and end all of writing. I mean, it's a very obvious thing, but it doesn't have, your film can have 4 acts, it can have 5 acts.
Sure.
It's but we keep talking about, and especially in Indian cinema, I don't think the 3-act structure is very applicable because you have an interval bang in the middle.
Exactly.
So you have to have an artificial explosion before the interval, restart like the engine after the interval. So, and then, have a bigger blast at the end. As in, when I say blast, I mean like the impact, right? What is your opinion when you write? Obviously, there's cause effect. There is you put somebody up a tree, you throw stones at him, all those things that people say. Do you write with some kind of act structure in mind?
Yeah, see, usually what happens is I sometimes, I like the 3-act structure better. I'll tell you why I like it better. It's because it's very simple. You have exposition, complication, resolution. These are the 3 acts. So middle of the second act, the complication, you have a midpoint. The midpoint need not be a plot point. It can just be a cliffhanger.
Right.
It's a very simple cliffhanger, just to get the juices flowing, so that when these guys come back, they're able to now go back. See, because I always think of no interval movie. When you think of a no intermission film, which is for the OTT right now, or the US market, or the world market, you cannot afford to restart the film.
Right.
Then again, it'll just slump down. So the idea is to actually have this arc correctly structured, and make sure that you have 1 or 2 interesting points where the midpoint of the film, you can just break that film there and continue from there on. And that's exactly how I did for kolai, the 3-act structure. I never really consciously worked on the interval block. Right. I did not consciously do that. But I know that somewhere in the middle act, in the midpoint, somewhere here I could throw a cliffhanger, which could sustain the audience for the next 10, 15 minutes. So when they come back, they can binge it.
Right, right.
So that's the idea. And but the 5-act structure I did for a Netflix show.
Right.
So usually for a Netflix show, what you do is you kind of have like a loose prologue. It may not even be prologue, but we can, for convenience sake, can say it's a prologue. Then you'll have an epilogue. So even kolai has sort of a prologue and an epilogue too in this. So, but the idea is when you look at it that way, it's not technically 5-act.
Right.
Yeah, it's basically the first, second, third act. So that's all it is. The prologue is just a prologue. That's all it is.
From the conversation we were just having before the interview, this is based on a true life murder case.
Very, very loosely.
Right.
Super loosely based on a true life.
Can you tell us a bit about that murder case?
That murder case is nothing but a stalwart. She actually was a cabaret dancer or something. She was a dancer. Someone found her murdered in her apartment. The police case that occurred around it. And finally, it was unsolved.
Okay.
It was totally, and it's an unsolved murder mystery. So many writers.
And this happened in the US.
Yeah, it happened in the US in 1923. It's actually a very famous case. The interesting thing is, to give you an idea, this is the Broadway Butterfly, and it's written by Sarah DeVillo. There were other books too, like Memoirs of a Murder Man. That was in 1930s. It's actually written by the detective who actually handled the case.
Wow.
Okay. Then there is another one called It's Time to Tell, which was written by the medical examiner who handled the case. Then you also have like Chronicles of Murder by Brian Lane, that came in 62. Then you have Who Killed Broadway Butterfly in 2002. You have to understand, this one murder case had really made a lot of people.
It's something like maybe the Black Dahlia.
It is like that. It's pretty, because it's a true case. At that time, this case was like, it was too much for them. And like I told you, the words sugar daddy sort of stemmed out of this, because she was actually sort of milking
Somebody for
many, for money.
It's going to be very interesting to see how you Tamilize all of this.
I Tamilized it very, very differently.
No, I'm saying it's going to be interesting.
Without using any bad thing about, so I had to like stay away from that to get I totally did a different, I did a total a U-turn on that.
Right.
And also I make the dead girl narrate in this. So that is a homage that I'm paying to Sunset Boulevard.
Nice.
It's
nice.
because it's also narrated by a dead man, and which again Martin Scorsese paid a homage to that in Casino.
Yeah.
And both are amazing filmmakers. So I said, okay, let me do that, because that was the one last leaf that I had to turn to actually make this work, because in a murder mystery, nobody gives a damn about the one that gets killed. You know why? Because it's a tool to tell the story. It's a puzzle crime. That's all it is. But for me, I wanted them to connect. That's why she says, யார் கொன்னாங்க ஏன் கொன்னாங்க எப்படி கொன்னாங்கன்னு உங்களுக்கு தெரியணும்னா நான் யாருன்னு நீங்க முதல்ல தெரிஞ்சுக்கங்க. She says that because she says, I'm not going to let you guys that easily give away who did me in easily, but I am going to tell you everything that you need to know, so you guys figure out.
Right. And the person playing this character is
Meenakshi Chowdhury.
Okay.
Right. It's there even in the trailer.
Yeah. So you're making ad films. You have this eye for technique. You've studied painting. You live in LA. You're close to the film industry in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. This is a question I ask many directors, hoping that they'll give something new, a new angle to this answer. For somebody rooted here and looking to make a first film, trying to find a voice, what would your advice be?
I always advise my assistants. This is the only piece of advice I give them. I say, don't ever use the word difficult, because what we do out of love. What is difficult is a person like chopping a tree in the middle of the day in a hot, that's a difficult job.
Right.
So you don't say your job is difficult because you want to do something, you come. And also, no matter who you are, when you're ready to swim the 1,000 miles, if you give up the 999th mile, you will still bloody die. There's no, God won't come and save you, and all the 999 miles that you did won't make any difference. The last mile always makes the difference. So you will die. And number 3 is, out of all the people that like 10 people or dozen people that are with me, only one will become a director after 10 years. Only one will become a director after 10 years. You decide who that one is. It's not my job. I can lead a horse to water, but it's up to you to drink it.
You're not giving typical things like perseverance, hard work, discipline. You're not doing that at all.
Not at all. Because hard work is, hard work has no respect at all. Because there are so many instances I can point out that people that have worked so hard have never been, they have not had their, share, but they might have bliss. All that. I'm not philosophically debating this issue, but the idea is like, at the end of the day, it's almost a proverb. Hard work doesn't pay. It's almost a proverb. So that's for me, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Hard work doesn't matter. Smart work.
Right.
What you do.
Right.
Do smartly.
Can't wait to see Kolai. All the best for your film.
Thanks.
And it was especially nice having this conversation, because I've been wanting to meet you ever since
Video
I saw Video Moon, and then we found out that we had a mutual friend, We had a conversation in the car the
Oh,
other
yes,
day.
yes, Gopi.
Yeah, Gopi.
Yes,
yes.
yes,
And then we spoke.
Yes.
It's a very interesting thing that you do. So it's really interesting in the sense that you're saying I will make movies on my own terms, but for an audience that like is a
Audience is always ready
right.
because audience always likes new things. They like. But it's always the gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers sometimes they don't have the true data.
Right.
They just assume.
Right.
See, because Edward de Bono, you've heard of Edward de Bono.
Right.
He once said, he was a father of lateral thinking. He said, how did lateral thinking come about? He said he was like, wherever he was, I don't know whether it's Cambridge or Oxford. It is a norm that the gates are locked at 11 o'clock. So one of these days, they all went out. They wanted to sneak in again into the hostel. So, but they assumed that the gate was locked. So some of the people, they tried to climb the wall, helping. Some of them got, but Edward didn't know what to do because he was a little puny guy apparently. And then he tried to just open the gate. The gate actually opened. That's when he realized, oh my God, it's just a belief that it's closed. It's not really closed. So the idea is you just have a preconceived idea. And with the preconceived idea, a lot of people do this. I don't deny that because when they're throwing a lot of money, they're afraid. And the fear factor is there. It's almost like saying that they go to a gambling casino, they throw money and they say, I know exactly the formula. Believe me, you don't know the formula. The formula, it's always stacked against you. There's no formula. That's the formula.
The formula is that there's no formula.
Formula is that there's no formula.
I think that's a great place to end the interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
பல்லாவரம் ஃபோக்கஸ் மென்ஸ்வேர் இப்போது மேடவாக்கத்திலும் ஓப்பனிங் ஆஃபர் டி-ஷர்ட் வெறும் 19, ஷர்ட்ஸ் 79 மற்றும் அனைத்து ஆடைகளும் 799 கிடைக்கும்.